Kim discovered something and wondered if it was an arrowhead or a chipped-off piece of a sword. He was intrigued by the investigation his team was conducting, as the object seemed familiar. Just then, more goblins appeared from behind him, as he got up. He contemplated testing his new skills and called the goblins over. He created 2 small black, circular objects to try out his E-rank skill. He attacked the goblins with these objects and decided that, even though he had completed his mission, he might as well stay a bit longer to clean up. He then asked where the other demons were. After everything was cleared, he exited the dungeon, declaring that he had finally completed it and was ready to play DPF. The next day, Kim and other hunters walked together, armed with guns and other necessary equipment. Kim thought he had enjoyed a satisfactory day off, however. When he returned to the camp with a light heart, he found the platoon in a serious mood. Every platoon was preparing to move from various positions towards the center of the dungeon for a divine class real-life training session. As his platoon advanced, one soldier spotted something approaching from ahead. He instructed everyone to prepare for battle. Take up positions on the hill directly ahead and get ready to fight the monsters. They discovered that the enemies were dark, floating orbs. The soldier ordered the troops to put away their specialized weapons and ready their firearms instead. The platoon readied their guns and Kim, excited by the challenge, found the situation enjoyable. The order to start firing was given, and they began shooting at the dark orbs. It was noted that these orbs had tough skins and floated, making them difficult to handle with melee weapons. Therefore, they needed to be defeated before they got too close. The soldier then called for a ceasefire and prepared for close combat. 3 monsters remained, and it would be challenging to defeat them if they began to drain human blood, so the troops were advised to be vigilant and avoid getting bitten by the dark orbs. Kim realized that being bitten could spell game over, and if many troops were injured, the platoon's score would plummet. He knew he couldn't let that happen. He rushed to save a boy from the dark ball, calling out the boy's name as he ran, swinging and kicking the dark ball into the air. Kim thought it would be much easier to deal with them using dark arrows. The others opened fire on the dark ball to finish it off. Kim then kicked the other 2 dark balls into the air as well. He instructed the others to fire at will at the dark balls in the air. Once all the dark balls were defeated, the soldier suggested taking a 10-minute break. He advised everyone to examine their personal equipment while resting and check for any injuries in their respective squads. Reporting any issues to him, he gave Kim a thumbs up in appreciation. A red-haired boy asked his friends if they found this training more challenging than the previous one and inquired how many fights they had already been through. His friend wasn't sure but mentioned rumors that this wasn't just a regular dungeon. The red-haired boy asked what he meant, and the friend replied that there was a boss monster in the dungeon. This scene reminded him of the past, when Du, along with other hunters, had killed a monster and suggested that they could train there. The boy stopped reminiscing and, tearfully, told the red-haired boy that they had captured the monster alive and locked it away in the assembly area because they were afraid of the dungeon being cleared. Just then, their group leader arrived, announcing that the break was over and taking the boy with him. Kim reflected on the 2-star rank from the Hunter Corps and thought he was quite skilled. They continued on, and soon they saw Du sitting with a sign around his neck that read injured. The scene then shifted to a man meeting with a knight. The man commented that the knight had returned sooner than expected and speculated that it was likely due to the knight fulfilling a woman's order. The knight presented a sword to the old man, who regarded it with disdain. The old man then asked the knight if he had been hunting demonic monsters. The scene shifts to the central dungeon assembly point, where Jion reported that there were significantly more monsters than expected and expressed hope that there would be no incidents. Son responded that the division commander believed the average combat ability was gradually decreasing. Jion thought they might be pushing the team too hard. June arrived and inquired about the whereabouts of the division commander, Du. Son explained that no one could stop Du when he set his mind to something. June then asked why Du was participating in the training and why they had to go where his team was. Jion explained that Du had mentioned before leaving that there was a soldier he wanted to see. The group leader of Kim wondered if there was a penalty involved, which required carrying out a wounded person. He noted that the role of the injured was supposed to be filled by an executive from the division headquarters, not the division commander himself. Du approached the leader of the group and, showing the injured card, requested that they take good care of him. First, he asked about the man and then instructed them to proceed with carrying Du on a stretcher. 2 boys brought a stretcher for Du, but Du interrupted them, asking if they didn't know his personality. The leader then instructed what to do with the injured. Du told him to forget it, saying he wasn't actually injured and to continue with the training. He then smiled oddly. Kim found the training incredibly enjoyable. He thought the entertaining parts weren't over yet. Not only did they encounter various types of monsters, but there were also numerous devices prepared by the division, which added to the fun of the training. After some time, Chio became exhausted. He managed to slash at a monster in front of him, killing it, but then collapsed. Kim, having just defeated a monster himself, reflected that while it might be a basic skill, it had significantly increased his power. He helped Chio back to his feet, and they all resumed battling the monsters. Du considered the maneuvers the hunters were performing to be the toughest he had faced so far. When a monster attacked him from behind, Du casually punched it into the air. The leader of the group announced that they would take a break afterward and encouraged everyone to give their best until then. The others agreed with that. Du thought it was clear that Kim had made a very memorable impression. At the same time, in the northern part of the dungeon, the female hunters were battling the dark balls. Yunzeo was among them and managed to slash through one of the dark balls. They all eventually succeeded in defeating the dark balls. One of the girls praised Yunzeo for her impressive performance, noting that she had defeated most of the dark balls. Just then, one of the dark balls came from behind to attack the girl who had praised Yunzeo. Yunzeo arrived just in time to push the girl out of the way and strike the dark ball with her sword. She narrowly avoided falling off the edge of the mountain. As Kim and the others were resting, Dee remarked that their leader seemed very competent, given that they had made it this far without any major injuries. The man wondered where Du had gone, but as he observed the team helping each other, he noted that their success was due to their platoon members. Du agreed, attributing their success to the man's competence, and encouraged him to give his best for the remainder of the training. The leader expressed his thanks. Meanwhile, one of the boys, Dor, grabbed another boy with joy and asked what was wrong with his balance and whether his left hand was only assisting. The boy apologized. 2 other observers were watching, and one asked if they were on their second hunter field maneuvers and if he could ask something. The second boy, whom he was addressing, declined to ask anything. The first boy pointed to a board and asked what it was. The second boy replied that it was the hole that Tenyo wasn't supposed to go into. The leader then instructed the group to get up. As they were leaving, the second boy asked the first if he didn't know about the dungeon hole and guessed that the first boy must have slept through the dungeon information session. Although there was still much unknown about the dungeon phenomenon, the prevailing hypothesis was that it connected to a different dimension through a gate, potentially linking to an infinite space. Not only were there borders within the dungeon, but there were also places where the connection was lost, known as dungeon holes. The first boy asked what would happen if they went outside the borders or into a dungeon hole. The second boy, who initially didn't believe it himself, explained that others said they would be teleported back to a random location within the dungeon. As they continued their discussion, they noticed others talking nearby and wondered what was wrong. When the leader and Kim arrived, they found Yunzeo had fainted. They helped her wake up and gave her some water. The leader informed her that he had reported the situation to the 4th Battalion, so Yunzeo didn't need to worry and should focus on recovering. Yunzeo asked if he could confirm whether all her battalion members were safe. The leader replied that everyone was safe and had been quite worried about Yunzeo. They had stopped the training to search for her, but he was confident it would resume soon. As he had informed them of her safety, Yunzeo thanked him and started to relax, noticing her injured leg. Another boy mentioned that it would be difficult for her to continue the training with her injury. He emphasized that, for hunters, taking care of themselves was just as important as improving their combat abilities. The leader added that, since he had contacted headquarters, the transfer crew would arrive shortly, and he was about to conclude his remarks. Yunzeo felt saddened by the news. Du then asked how the soldier was doing. Yunzeo was shocked to see Du and wondered what he was doing there. The leader informed Du that Yunzeo was all right overall, with serious external injuries but a likely fractured left ankle, making it difficult for her to continue training. Du expressed regret, noting that there wasn't much training left anyway, and then asked Yunzeo what had happened. Yunzeo explained that she had fallen off a cliff while fighting a monster and lost consciousness. When she opened her eyes, everyone was already there. Du asked if she had fallen beyond the dungeon's border or into a dungeon hole, noting that she was fortunate to have been discovered so quickly. He then asked her name. When Yunzeo introduced herself, Du inquired if she was from the 4th Company of the 4th Battalion and the dungeon of Taeho. He handed her an injured tag board to wear and, looking around, called for Kim. When Kim arrived, Yunzeo felt embarrassed and wondered why he was there. Du instructed Kim to pick up Yunzeo immediately. Kim, slightly taken aback, apologized for the situation. Du firmly told him to pick her up because she was injured. Kim observed Yunzeo, who was hiding her face and thought it seemed like a significant achievement with the situation assessed. He agreed with Du's instructions. As he approached Yunzio, he turned and asked her to sit on his back. Yunzio was shocked by the request. Hi guys, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy the content.